Well, hi. Hey, today we're going to do our second drafting assignment of the trimester. We started with the H. Hopefully you watched the videos on how to use the drafting tools, how to set up a draft, and then did the H. I kind of like to require everybody to do the H, regardless of grade level. It's a good reminder of how to use the tools properly and how to get started and start to build some of that muscle memory on how to hold T-squares and triangles and so forth. Today we're going to slide into our first drafting assignment called Plate 1. And this is a set of staircase. Not a great picture, but you get the idea of what we're going to draw today. A couple things you might notice. The picture that I have here, I've cropped out the border and the nameplate and the Lucky L. We're still going to put those on. Those exist with every drawing that we do, okay? So no time are we going to not have the Lucky L and the border and the nameplate. So this is a small staircase. A couple things you'll notice is that these measurements are not in inches. Well, they are in inches, but they're written as a decimal, not as a fraction. So I'm going to guess at this point most of you can convert those. So if you look down here at the bottom where it says 6.75 or 25, 6.25 would be 6 1/4. And over here it says 3.5 would be 3 1/2. And up here is 2.5, which would be 2 1/2. And then 175 is 1 3/4. And the rest of these are pretty straightforward. A couple things you might notice. There is no measurement right here on this vertical. It doesn't give you a measurement. The reason it doesn't give you that measurement is we want you to remember that when you do dimensioning, when you're drafting, we're going to put on the minimum number of measurements possible to still be able to draft it. So I've left this one off because if I know this height is 3 1/2, and I know this one here is 1 1/2, and I know this is 1 inch here, I can mathematically solve and figure out that that's 1 inch tall. And so on this draft, we're going to tell you that answer, but on the ones coming after this, we're going to have you figure that out. Number 2, up here in the corner we wrote 2 inch thickness. That means that each of these diagonal lines is 2 inches. When I have you guys dimension this, I'm going to have you put the dimensions down here on a diagonal rather than write 2 inches thick. All right? So, well, let's get started. So what I've got here is I have my piece of paper. It is squared up, which means it's taped down parallel to my T-square. I also have put on a border, a nameplate, and a Lucky L. And the Lucky L is kind of hard to see because it's super light. So I'm going to start in this corner of the Lucky L, which is right down here. And that is going to be, if you look up here in the corner, that's going to be this little corner right here. Notice, see this line that comes down here and the line that sticks here? Those are called extension lines, and we talked about those when we did the letter H. And on our H, we don't have them touch. We skip about a 1/4 inch and then start drawing them. But as you can see, this is computer drawn, so we're going to go without those, and we're going to leave them a 1/4 inch away. I'll talk more about that when we get. So I'm going to start in this corner. And so if I look at my draft, it says I need to go up 3 1/2 inches. So I'm going to go up 3 1/2 inches. So put this right in the corner, 1, 2, 3 1/2. And again, I'm just going to put a little mark at 3 1/2 inches. And I know there's a line that goes straight across. And so I drew a pretty light line that goes across. Hopefully you can see that in here. I might be drawing a little too light. And that line goes out this way. Looks like it's going to go, what, 2 1/2. So now I'm going to measure out 2 1/2. So I'm going to come out 2 1/2, 1, 2 1/2. And I hope it doesn't confuse you. Notice I measured from the 12. I just went backwards. 1, 2 1/2. It doesn't matter if I use my ruler this way or this way. So I went out 2 1/2, and now I'm going to come down. And again, I don't know how far I'm coming down. I'm not measuring that. So I just drew a line that goes down. Looks like it goes down 1 1/2. So I made sure my line that went down was a little more than 1 1/2. I'm going to mark out 1 1/2. And then I'm going to draw a line that goes horizontally. And again, it goes 1 3/4. But I didn't measure that, did I? I just drew the line. And now I'm going to come back in, measure out my 1 3/4 and put a mark. And then I'm going to come down. And this is the one that isn't labeled. But remember, I said I can do the math. And I know that line comes down 1 inch. So I came down 1 inch. And I'm going to put a mark. And then I'm going to go horizontally. And again, that one's 2 inches. And so I'm going to measure out my 2 inches. I'm going to put a mark. And then I'm going to come down. And I'm going to bet that if I bring this right down to my lucky L, which is right there, it's going to be exactly 1 inch. And if it is, I've done it correctly. And look at that, we're at 1 inch. So now I'm going to go back, I'm going to darken this up and do a little cleanup, because this was my lucky L, it's the bottom of my lucky L. And so I'm going to go back to my lines that I just drew, and I'm going to convert them from construction lines to visible lines. Okay, and darken those up. And my advice to you is right now on the screen, you can see me drafting, and you can also see that I have a picture of plate number 1 up in the corner. Those drawings are all saved in a photo album called 6th Grade Drafts, and those are in my Google photo albums, and so you can look at those anytime you want. And what I would recommend is open your Chromebook and have that displayed in front of you while you're working, and that way we won't need a book this year. We won't have to worry about sharing books. You can just look at the pictures online, okay? And so now what I'm doing is I'm erasing those extra lines that I drew. We're going to get rid of those. And voila, there is plate 1, okay? Now, remember, after we draw the front of the object, the second thing we're going to do is make it 3-dimensional. So I have my border, I have my nameplate, I have my lucky L, I have the front of the object. So now we're going to make it 3D. I'm going to use my 45-degree triangle, which is this one. And that's what you guys are going to have as a 45-degree triangle. And I'm going to go to each corner, and I'm going to draw a line that is at least 2 inches long. Okay, and notice I'm not measuring them. I'm just drawing a line. Right now, I'm focused on making sure the head of the T-square is up against the edge of the table, that the T-square and triangle are connected, so that when I draw these lines, I know they're all exactly 45-degree lines. If I don't keep everything connected and use the T-square to do this, it will not look right, okay? When you're all done, it won't look the way it's supposed to. So now I drew a diagonal line from every corner that does not go across the front of my staircase. And how thick do we say this was? Oh, 2 inches. So now I'm going to measure back 2 inches and put a little line. And the rule of thumb is I'm going to parallel what happens in the front is going to happen in the back. So I measured back 2 inches on the diagonal line. I'm going to go straight up till I hit a line. Once I hit that line, I'm going to come straight across till I hit a line. And it's very bizarre. When you go to draw this line, for some reason, I don't know why, kids always think it's wrong when they go straight across, and they want to draw the line going uphill. And I don't know why. It's a line straight across, and then from where those two touch, I go straight up till I hit a line and stop. And then I go straight across till I hit a line, and then straight up till I hit a line, and then straight across till I hit a line. And voila, we have our staircase. So now I'm going to erase those, we call those diagonal lines that we didn't use. We're going to call those tails. So I'm going to erase the tails, get rid of those. And then after I have my object drawn 3D, and I'm going to clean up some of these lines, get rid of those. I'm going to go back, and again, I'm going to convert these lines that I drew nice and light the first time. I'm going to convert them from construction lines to visible lines, remember, which is just a matter of taking the tools and going back over them and darken them up nice and dark so that they're easy to see. The other thing is, when you darken these up, it makes the lines that you erased less noticeable. All right, so there's plate number 1, drawn 3D. So we're now 2/3 the way done. The next thing we need to do with this is come in and give it some dimension or measurements. So again, you might remember from when we did the letter H, we came in first of all and did little extension lines, and these are lines that extend from the drawing. and I lined them up, and I'm going to come in here, pick up my pencil for a little bit more than a 1/2 inch, put it down. At each end, I'm going to draw an arrowhead that touches each of my extension lines. I'm going to color those arrowheads in, and then I'm going to write the measurement. And this time, I'm going to write a fraction, okay? So we're going to do fractions even though the sheets that we're copying these from have them in the form of a decimal. Okay, so now I'm going to come over here and do the same thing here. I'm going to tell you that from the bottom here to the top here, and again, I just draw those little extension lines there. And then I'm going to draw a dimension line. And remember, the secret is to make sure to leave a gap in that extension line so I can write the dimension in there and the units. So I just put 2 little marks. Those 2 little marks mean inches. If I put 1 little mark, it's feet. Okay? And so now this one up here, see how up in the corner there, how the 2.5 is up above the box? I can certainly do that. So I'm just going to come in here and put a line here. And again, I like to not have it touch. Okay? And then I'm going to put my dimension line in here. Whoops. Getting a little carried away with the amount of pressure I'm using. Okay. And I'm going to put my dimension in here, which is 2.5 inches. And then I'm going to put the arrowhead here, and voila, we're on our way. So I'm going to take a little bit of time here. I'm going to finish up my dimensions. And again, make sure these lines are straight. In drafting, all the lines that we're drawing have to be drawn with a tool. The only time we write or write on a drawing or do anything without a tool is when we're writing numbers or letters or arrowheads, okay? Everything else gets a measurement on it or gets a straight edge or a tool of some sort to draw it. And that's just kind of how that goes. And so again, taking my time, working my way around the drawing. Straight lines, straight extension lines, straight dimension lines, okay? And notice there was no dimension lines on some of these because they're actually touching the lines, and that is perfectly acceptable. There's not a problem with that. And then I'm going to come over here, do this one. And, oop, that line isn't very straight, is it? I got a dent in my scale, or in my T-square, I mean. Arrowhead, arrowhead, 2 inches. Okay, looking pretty good. Let's see. I need to tell you that this is 2 inches. Notice on my sample, it says 2 inches thick up there. I'm not a really big fan of that. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to skip about a 1/4 inch. I'm going to draw a line here. I'm going to draw a line here. And then I can rotate my triangle and put my measurement right in here. 2 inches thick, an arrowhead, and an arrowhead, and voila, that is our drawing of plate number 1. Looks pretty good, don't you think? So plate number 1 is all squared away. We got dimensions on it. We went back. We darkened everything up. Looks pretty reasonable to me. Pretty happy with the way that turned out. All right. Hey, take a shot. See if you can get this done on your own, and let me know what you come up with. All these assignments, when we're done drafting them, the way we're going to turn these on online, so instead of handing it to me, I will have you take a picture of it or scan it at home, whatever you find the easiest way, and we're going to turn it in as an assignment online, okay? You could probably even just hold it in front of your web camera, and that would be pretty close. Notice, nice straight lines, no bent lines, no stray lines, no hand drawing, no free-handing. Looks pretty good. All right, good luck on plate number 1, and we'll see you back here when you're ready for your next assignment.